So now we know what the BYD Seal looks like, how practical it is, how safe it is, how spacious it is, and how much it costs. The only question now is, what is BYD's flagship saloon like to drive? My name is AIMAN, ABDULLAH, this is Malaysian Motoring, and this is our preview drive of the BYD Seal. Now we're behind the wheel of the BYD Seal and we have the all-wheel drive model. So this is the car that gets the fullest performance stats, and I gotta say it is pretty fast. Now we're on a little stretch of the Max highway and the car is screaming at me because I've exceeded the speed limit. And I have to say that NVH is pretty good. Well north of the national speed limit, there is a very limited amount of road and wind noise entering the cabin, and of course these seats are very comfortable indeed. Now of course we're driving in convoy, which means again we do have some limitations in terms of how we can drive this car, but initial impressions are very impressive indeed. Now there is some degree of brake regen, although I cannot seem to find the settings themselves. They must be somewhere here in the car. That's the overspeed warning. I can assure you I'm not actually speeding. So dynamically it seems that on the surface, the car manages its weight quite well. This is a 2.2 ton vehicle, which means obviously there is a lot of weight for this car to manage. And the suspension seems to be set up for something slightly softer, which means as we're moving around, you can feel the body lean ever so slightly into corners. It's not quite as flat as what you'd expect from, say, a BMW i4 or indeed the Tesla Model 3, but this is still perfectly acceptable and definitely acceptable for 90% of buyers. I think this car has some sort of adaptive regen because I'm getting a lot more regenerative braking now that we're driving on a motorway compared to how we were earlier. Now, initial impressions, like I said, are still very positive, so my driving position is quite nice. The steering wheel feels nice and comfy and chunky in the hand as well. So this should do pretty well as a long-distance cruiser. Now we're coming up to a toll plaza, which means I should be able to try the acceleration function if I knock this car into sport. Oh, good Lord above. So obviously this car has in excess of 600 Newton meters of torque, and that is very, very obvious from the moment you stomp on the pedal, because this car absolutely takes off. And now if I try to slow it down to about 90, to try a 90 to 120 test, and there is a slight delay in terms of power delivery. Good grief. There is a slight delay in terms of power delivery. It's very similar to what we experienced from the BYD Dolphin, where there's a little bit more of a torque curve, which I suppose makes this car a lot more approachable for those who may be transitioning from an internal combustion car into an EV. But for what it's worth, these seats are more than happy to hold you in place. Very welcome addition from BYD. And as far as I'm concerned, as I said, this car is very impressive. Now bear in mind, this car starts at 179,800 ringgit, with this all-wheel drive model that we're in today coming in at 199,800 ringgit. Now for the performance on offer, that does undercut the all-wheel drive version of the Tesla Model 3 by some degree, and it also undercuts the BMW i4 also by a pretty considerable margin. And for the money, it's quite clear that the BYD Seal offers an excellent value proposition. Now I certainly look forward to getting this car out on test later for a proper, full, in-depth review, but for the time being, I can tell you this is definitely worth a look. Now the BYD Seal will be available on display and for test drives at TRX over the weekend, so if you're interested to take a look at the new BYD Seal, be sure to head over and register for a test drive. They have both the rear-wheel drive and all-wheel drive versions available for you to sample. But as I said, this is very, very impressive indeed. In any case, that has been our preview drive of the BYD Seal. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, hit the little bell icon so notified every time we make a new upload. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and WhatsApp. All the links are in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you in the next one. Take care and stay safe.